It's Thursday, June 26th, 2025. The hunt for the leakers is on. Dispatches from NATO and more from New York City's Democrat mayor nominee next on the AM Update.
They took bits and pieces from a leaked top-secret intelligence report. And by the way, I understand the FBI is investigating.
Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to get stuff.
They fought, the war's done, and I could get a statement that they're not going to go nuclear. We're probably going to ask for that.
I don't have any time to listen to libertarian
I know you don't have any time.
And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day.
The Central Intelligence Agency released a statement yesterday reading, quote, CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by the recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from historically reliable and accurate sources and methods that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over a period of several years. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt says the hunt for the leakers is on, and they could be facing jail time if caught.
They took bits and pieces from a leaked top-secret intelligence report. And by the way, I understand the FBI is investigating who was the source of that leak because it's an illegal leak to CNN. And this is the same fake news CNN reporter who wrote the story alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which we know is one of the greatest political hoaxes this country and the American public have ever seen. And that CNN story does not change the facts. There was a total and complete obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities. And because of the president's strike, because of the precision of our United States military and this perfectly executed mission, Iran no longer has the capability to produce a nuclear weapon as imminently as they did prior to the strike.
On Truth Social yesterday, President Trump announced that the Department of Defense and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth would be holding a press conference later this morning on the topic of Iran's nuclear capabilities. CNN released a statement yesterday saying they stand behind their reporter's deep state leak, quote, 100%. Speaking of Hegseth and Trump, they were both at NATO over the last couple of days, the NATO summit in The Hague. Here is Donald Trump talking about what happened between Israel and Iran and why he was so upset the other morning.
I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
get stuff. You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
That is the voice of NATO's Secretary General, likening what President Trump said the other morning, saying that Iran and Israel don't know what the bleep they're doing, as being like Daddy coming in to break up a big fight. Trump was also asked about negotiations with Iran and whether those should start back up.
Interested in restarting negotiations with Iran? And if so, have they reciprocated?
So our people, Marco could answer this, but our people are not, I'm not. The way I look at it, they fought, the war's done, and, I could get a statement that they're not going to go nuclear. We're probably going to ask for that, but they're not going to be doing it. But they're not going to be doing it anyway. They've had it. They've had it. Now, maybe someday in the future we'll want that. But I've asked Marco, do you want to draw, I just asked him the question as we were walking on the stage, do you want to draw up a little agreement for them to sign? Because I think we can get them to sign it. I don't think it's necessary. Marco, do you want to talk about that, please?
Well, Mr. President, I think President Trump has shown a willingness to meet and talk to anybody in the world who's interested in peace. I don't know of any president that's been as willing as he has to meet with anyone and talk about peace.
Translation there from both Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Trump. Iran and Israel fought and Iran lost. There's really no point in negotiating with the losers of a fight. Meanwhile, back at home, here is Congressman Chip Roy during a testimony from somebody from the Cato Institute. That's the libertarian 200-proof think tank. Well, they were advocating for open borders, and Congressman Roy was having none of it.
Mr. Nowrester, I assume that when you say you'd like a future with more Americans, that includes Jocelyn Nungaray. Do you know Jocelyn Nungaray? Have you talked to her mother, Alexis?
I know of her. She was murdered by an illegal immigrant in Houston.
People who were released into this country with a notice to appear in court did not appear and then violently killed a young woman and is now dead. and her mother lost her. And she's one of dozens, hundreds, thousands of examples of Americans who are dead because of policies that were advocated for by the Biden administration and people parading around as libertarians. Ms. Vaughn.
Parading around as libertarians? What does that mean?
Ms. Vaughn. It means exactly what it means, Mr. Ratzer. It's my time, not yours.
That's a personal offense.
It is my time, not yours. I don't have any time to listen to libertarian claptrap.
I know you don't have any time to listen.
That is killing Americans, because that's what you're doing, and you're hiding behind
killing
a brand
Americans?
that is resulting in the death of Americans.
That's a heck of a thing to say to somebody, sir. That is totally false, and I take exception to that.
It's true, and everybody in America knows it.
Good job, Congressman Chip Roy. That a lot of pent-up frustration with libertarian ideology, especially on the issue of immigration. Libertarians are odd in the age of Trump. Well, they're always odd, period. Just put a period by that sentence. But in the age of Trump, it seems like they exist for nothing else other than to just be a stick in the mud of President Trump's agenda. And just posturing and posing and virtue signaling about freedom, really licentiousness. That's basically what they are. President Trump went to the Libertarian Convention last year, promised the libertarians in the audience a libertarian in his cabinet, and then was booed by libertarians. These people are nuts. They don't really contribute anything to the coalition, is what I'm trying to say. Moving on, more from Zoran Mamdani. He is the Democrats' nominee for New York City mayor and probably will win in the general election against Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa. He gave his acceptance speech for the nomination in New York City the other night. Here's what he had to say about fighting back against that fascist Trump.
It is enough to send your kid to school where rent-stabilized apartments are actually stabilized, where buses are fast and free, where childcare doesn't cost more than CUNY, and where public safety keeps us truly safe. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors.
So that is Zoran Mamdani's vision for New York. Tons of free stuff paid for by ? And unlimited streams of illegal aliens. Border Czar Tom Homan reacted.
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day, every hour of every minute. We're going to be in New York City. Matter of fact, because it's a sanctuary city, President Trump made it clear a week and a half ago. We're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities. If we can't arrest a bad guy in a county jail, one agent arresting one bad guy, they release him in the streets like New York does every day. We got to send a whole team to look for this guy. And not only that, we're going to send additional teams to look for all the people they arrest. We're going to concentrate in sanctuary cities because we know they're releasing public safety threats and national security threats back to the street. So we know we got a problem there. So we don't have that problem in Florida where most sheriffs work for us. So we're going to double up and triple up on New York. And not only are we going to send more agents to the neighborhood, we're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold. If we can't arrest them in the jail, you're going to force them in the neighborhood, then we'll find them in the neighborhood. If we can't find them in the neighborhood, we'll find them at the worksite. So game on.
Saw multiple stories and reports yesterday of large-scale raids on various workplaces. I saw one in Alabama and one in North Carolina. So it's not just rhetoric there from Border Czar Tom Homan. It seems like the Trump administration is doing their best to double and triple down on immigration enforcement. Quickly before the break, here is CNN's Aaron Burnett just 2 weeks ago, actually less than 2 weeks ago. This was on June 19th, just 5 days ago, actually, discussing the prospect of a nuclear Iran.
This timeline of Iran being a few weeks away from a nuclear bomb is in direct contradiction to CNN's reporting. According to U.S. intelligence assessments, Iran is 3 years away from being able to produce a nuclear weapon if they wanted to. So the facts on Iran getting a nuclear weapon do not bear out the claim at the heart of what has put the world on the verge of world war.
So that was CNN's Aaron Burnett less than a week ago saying, why are you even messing with Iran? They're not even trying to build a nuclear weapon. Here's Aaron Burnett on Tuesday.
They set back the Iranian nuclear program by months. We got to call it like it is. It's a big deal.
There she is claiming that we only set back their nuclear program, which she just claimed less than a week ago. really didn't exist for the purpose of making a nuclear weapon. She said we only set that back a few months. Can't have it both ways. When we come back, the FBI is taking action against meatball surgery for minors in the name of gender, and a curious story about how a bride and groom tied the knot. Groom a big loser. Tell you about that next. The medical advocacy group Do No Harm has in recent years worked with healthcare professionals, hospital administrators, patients, and policymakers to combat diversity, equity, and inclusion branded racism and gender ideology in the field of medicine. In order to better tackle the second of these two scourges, the organization launched the Stop the Harm database in October, identifying hospitals and medical facilities around the country that were subjecting vulnerable children to so-called sex change mutilations, that would be meatball surgery, and sterilizing via chemical castration. The FBI has launched criminal probes into 3 of the apparent worst offenders in the database: Boston's Children's Hospital, Children's Hospital of Colorado, and Children's Hospital Los Angeles. That's according to a report from Fox News Digital. FBI Director Kash Patel appeared to signal that the anonymous source's claim was legitimate by retweeting a post on X regarding the investigations. The Stop the Harm database indicated that Boston's Children's Hospital has offered meatball surgery treatments to patients ages 3 through 25 through its gender multi-specialty service, performed 204 of these surgeries between 2017 and 2020, offered vaginoplasty surgeries to 17-year-old patients without parental consent, and dished out sterilizing hormone and puberty blocker drugs to hundreds of patients. Children's Hospital Colorado in Aurora has long offered puberty blockers, that'd be chemical castration and cross-sex hormones to minors. The hospital also allegedly billed for sex change surgeries in previous years, but announced in 2023 that its practice of genital mutilation was coming to an end. Hospital's practice of dishing out sterilizing chemicals continued. The FBI is looking at the hospitals for possible violations of U.S. code, which prohibits female genital mutilations on minors. Attorney General Pam Bondi noted in an April 22nd memo that pursuant to Trump's executive order protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, she was directing all Department of Justice employees to enforce rigorous protections and hold accountable those who prey on vulnerable children and their parents. So it sounds like our Department of Justice, the FBI, is finally looking in to this most heinous of practice, all done in the name of radical gender ideology. I hope they follow through and some heads metaphorically roll. Seems to be a recurring theme. This is a target-rich environment for making an example out of somebody or somebodies. Starting with the leaker at the top of the show today, find that person and throw him in prison for leaking classified documents. And now with this one, just sue and make sure that these hospitals never do this again to any child ever again. Make an example out of somebody. Check out this story from the New York Post. There's a couple who just got married. Of course, the bride always takes the groom's last name. It's symbolic. You're becoming one, okay? That's always been the case. But a new couple recently bucked that tradition and posted a video on Instagram engaging in a high-stakes game of rock, paper, scissors. Whoever won, again, they did this at the altar, whoever won that game would be the last name for the family moving forward. The groom, surnamed Pierce, won the first round, but the bride, fiancé, surnamed Hunter, won the last 2 rounds. And so, the couple's last name now is Hunter. The dude already lost by agreeing to even do that. What is this? It's like this millennial thing, just being as transgressive to tradition as possible. I just have to think they learned it from their parents. That's all I can think of. In very under the radar and intrinsic ways. Fortunately, I've never heard of this before. Rochambeau at the altar. Winner gets to keep their last name. Fortunately, I don't think that's widespread. It's not some sort of epidemic. But there's just this inclination in millennials. Just be as transgressive and offensive to tradition as possible. And now here's this. 2 of my most favorite and cherished Bible preachers and teachers are Dr. R.C. Sproul, the late Dr. R.C. Sproul, and John MacArthur. Well, MacArthur explained, not recent, and this is a good reminder to pray for him, he is not in good health, as I understand, but he explained in a video I saw recently the nickname that Sproul gave him early on during his time as a pastor and teacher of the Word. Now, Sproul and MacArthur were very, very good friends when Sproul was alive. They had some theological differences, but they remained very good friends. Here is both MacArthur and Sproul discussing what the nickname was for MacArthur in their own way.
R.C. opened his heart to me and invited me to Ligonier to speak. And then he assigned me to speak on the doctrine of election, which I actually thought at the time he had invented. And he was there with his Diet Coke on the front row and his feet crossed. And I knew this was a test. And it was the most public test a human being could ever have, to put his theology on display before the great theologian himself. He even nicknamed me Boris. That's another story.
My favorite nickname for John when I first met him was Boris.
Yeah.
It was back at the time when Boris Yeltsin got up on a tank.
Yeah.
Remember that, John?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the way I looked at John. Every time there was a battle that needed to be fought, John was out front. He was the one you wanted in your foxhole with you, because he was so valiant for the truth and for the kingdom of God. And that's been his signature as long as I've known him. And I remember meeting him at the Congress on the Bible in San Diego.
Yes, you introduced me, I think the first time I came to a Ligonier conference, as Boris.
Yeah.
But he always endearingly said to me, Johnny Mac. And the last time we had a conversation here, he said to me, finally, why is it, Johnny Mac, that I always have to tell you what you believe? God, fully man, with all the reasonableness of man.
Well, I prefer truly God and truly man, because it can be confused. And when you say that Jesus was fully God and fully man, if you mean by that one person was absolutely, totally God and that's all, then you'd be denying his humanity. Or if you say he was fully man, then there's no room for his deity. That's why we like to say vera homo, vera deus, truly God, truly man. You're with me on that.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I knew that's what you meant. Why, Johnny Mac, do you always make me have to define what you meant?
Two of my favorite teachers and preachers of the Word, John MacArthur and R.C. Sproul. They don't always agree on every jot and tittle of theology, but they were very good friends and engaged in discussions both about theology and other matters in great charity, actually in a lot of joy and respect. I think there's a lesson in that somewhere, especially this week, the last couple of weeks on the American right, with this ongoing, it's really just certain influencers in the digital space. The base of the party is not divided on the Iran issue. They're overwhelmingly, if you look at basically any poll that's come out, overwhelmingly with President Trump. But to engage with a little bit more charity. Because there was a side, I think, so far it seems, there was a side of this debate, whether or not to strike Iran, whether or not Israel is our friend. There's a side of this that basically lost. It's the side that kept saying that we were going to head to World War III imminently. That side lost. That you understand why they are coming to their conclusions about not wanting to get into foreign entanglements. And I see so many people continuing to stoke division and or spiking the football this week. I don't think that's helpful for anyone. Also, as I said in the lead up to that clip of John MacArthur and R.C. Sproul, pray for John MacArthur as well in not great health from what I've heard. Just pray for him that he would finish well. By the way, that clip is courtesy of reasonabletheology.org. When we come back, it's the results of our poll of the week that's coming up next. Poll of the week, I asked you, the 12-day war. What will we make of this? I gave you 3 options and the ability, as always, to comment with your own response. Options I gave you were these. 12-day war, was it a mistake? Will it be forgotten next week? Or was it historic? In third place, 5.3% said the whole thing was a mistake, getting involved. Israel actually striking to begin with, the whole thing was a mistake. Third place, 5.3%. In second place, forgotten next week, 42.1%. And first place, 12-day war is historic, 46.8%. That's what I voted for as well. Auburn Tiger is next. Other remains to be seen. Yeah, if that was... I still think there are some dangling participles, but right now it seems like the ceasefire is holding. So for now, anyway, it appears that Iran's nuclear capabilities have been sent back years. For now, it seems that their ability to strike militarily has been set back a long ways. Their proxies have basically been hunted down and destroyed. That was their main arm of their military. And their military proper for Iran, that has been seriously degraded by Israel. But I do think that there is still some wait and see here. Hal Lacey said, forgot to add historic and forgotten next week button. Good point, because I think that's also true on some level. Brian says, historic, forgotten next week, mistaken, and that's just the way, that's just the things righty media will be saying next week. Yeah, I mean, righty media has been all over the place on this, as I just expressed at the end of the last segment. Mike says, this isn't over. Next, the talking point will be, we didn't get all and need boots. All while here at home, absolutely nothing is being done about illegals or crimes in our government. The latter part is kind of true. There is a lot being done about illegals, although not enough and probably not fast enough for most of our desires. But the second part of what you said, crimes in our government, yeah, we need to be sending some messages, making some examples. John says, didn't end on day 12. Whatever. It's the 12-day war. Adam says, other, the last straw. End of Israel's free pass on American military action. I don't know what that means. The last straw, is this the last time that we help them? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm not sure. Sean says, wait to see how the dust settles. Steven says, it's not really over yet. Iran needed a breather, but they'll start launching again and close the strait when they are ready. I don't know, man. Again, this is where I'm waiting to see. Are they really done? Do they really have a black eye or not? Doug says, one of my child's public school friends asked if Jesse James was a quarterback in the NFL. We are uneducated. I'm really not sure what this has to do with the topic at hand. And Ricky says, you need a selection that says, I don't know anymore. It's true. I mean, like I said, and that's okay. It's okay to be humble and admit when you don't know what you don't know. And I think a lot of people probably need to be taking a serving of humble pie this week after the way things have played out. But like I said, nobody really knows how this is going. That's what I said on Monday. Nobody really knows what will happen next. And then Monday night, we got a ceasefire agreement, we think. And we think it's holding. So that's good. Regardless, what everybody wants is peace. And a lack of U.S. involvement, or at least anything more than necessary U.S. involvement in foreign entanglements. I think that's what pretty much everybody wants. That'll do it for Thursday. Tomorrow is Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can ask me any question. Tell me any news story you think needs covered on the AM Update. Make your submissions at Real AM Update on X. Look for the pinned post. That's going to do it. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.